You've been sold forgiveness as salvation, a psychological bleach to scrub your soul spotless. But dig through the topsoil of this cultural mantra, and you'll find a mass grave of buried truths. The rot runs deeper than personal failings. It's systemic, it's ancient, and it's been feeding on your guilt like a vampire in a blood bank. Here's the unholy trinity behind the self-forgiveness trap. 1. Religion's original sin. 2.0. The priest who sold indulgences now wears a lab coat. 2. Capitalism's guilt economy. Your remorse is the ultimate renewable resource. 3. The Freudian lobotomy. A century of therapy reframed moral struggle as mental illness. Let's autopsy the corpse. The God-shaped hole in the guilt factory. For millennia, religions weaponized guilt to control populations. Original sin, hellfire, penance. But when Nietzsche declared God is dead, he failed to predict what would fill the void. The self as the new deity. The confessional booth became your journal. The priest became your therapist. The Hail Mary became the daily affirmation. Modernity didn't kill guilt, it privatized it. Now, instead of fearing divine judgment, you're terrorized by your own inner critic. The stakes, not salvation, but self-actualization. The new original sin is failing to live your truth. The new hell? Regret. The new penance. A $500 online course promising to unshackle your past. Capitalism's perfect crime guilt is the oil greasing the machine of late-stage consumerism. Every ad whispers, "You're not enough, but buy this, and you'll earn redemption." That gym membership you never use? A tithe to the church of self-improvement. The organic kale smoothie? A communion wafer for the cult of purity. The productivity app tracking your every breath? A digital hair shirt. Schopenhauer saw this coming. Wealth is like seawater. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. Your guilt, reframed as areas for growth, becomes an infinite revenue stream. Forgive yourself for binge shopping, and you're primed to binge again. The cycle is the product. Freud's Frankenstein psychoanalysis pathologized moral anguish. What previous generations called a troubled conscience became neurosis. Your guilt about neglecting aging parents? Codependency. Your shame over exploiting others to climb the corporate ladder? Imposter syndrome. This was Freud's sleight of hand. By framing guilt as a symptom rather than a signal, he turned existential dilemmas into billing codes. Jung revolted against this, arguing that neurosis is always a substitute for legitimate suffering. But the damage was done. The entire self-help industry now depends on you misdiagnosing soul-deep questions as personal defects to fix. Nietzsche's slave morality in yoga pants. Nietzsche warned of slave morality, ethics born not of strength, but resentment. The modern forgiveness movement is its pinnacle. When you forgive yourself for staying in a toxic relationship, you're not practicing compassion, you're spiritualizing cowardice. When you release guilt over exploiting others, you're not healing, you're laundering your conscience. This is Nietzsche's last man in action, a society that pathologizes moral rigor as self-sabotage and celebrates apathy as self-care. The neuroscience of self-betrayal. Your brain is complicit in this charade. Every time you short-circuit guilt with platitudes like, "I did my best," you activate the dorsal anterior cingulate cortex, the same region that lights up when avoiding physical pain. You're not processing. You're anesthetizing. Studies show that premature self-forgiveness reduces activity in the prefrontal cortex, the seat of moral reasoning. Essentially, you're lobotomizing your ethical compass to mute its alarm. No wonder you feel emptier after each release. You're not resolving guilt, you're deleting data. The Stockholm Syndrome of the soul. Here's the cruelest twist. The systems that make you guilty also sell you the cure. Big Pharma profits from your shame about taking pills. Wellness influencers monetize your guilt about not meditating. Corporations hawk carbon offsets for your climate grief. It's a closed loop, like a prisoner paying for the privilege of their chains. Sartre called this bad faith, the act of lying to yourself to escape freedom's burden. Your performative self-forgiveness isn't growth. It's existential Uberization, outsourcing your soul's work to apps and gurus. The forbidden history. Ancient cultures understood guilt's purpose. The Navajo practiced hojo, harmony restored not through self-pardon, but communal restitution. Buddhist monks engaged in papa confession, not to erase wrongdoing, but to deepen accountability. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." Compare this to modern forgiveness journals, urging you to thank your past self for the lessons. We've replaced moral rigor with moral relativism wrapped in hashtags. But the most dangerous truth remains. Your inability to forgive yourself isn't a flaw. It's fidelity. That gnawing guilt about the friend you betrayed, it's proof your integrity still breathes. The shame over opportunities squandered, evidence your ambition isn't dead. The relentless self-criticism, your psyche's immune system rejecting the poison of complacency. In the next section, we'll expose how this unprocessed guilt metastasizes, corroding relationships, fueling addictions, and birthing the cultural psychosis around us. You'll discover why high-functioning people are modernity's most tragic figures, how guilt shapes everything, from politics to parenting, and what happens when an entire generation mistakes anesthesia for evolution. But first, sit with this. What if your guilt isn't the wound? It's the scalpel.